Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers, including Peter Berryman, John Robertson, Brandon Trano, and IndyCar World Champion Alex Palou. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome as you join us for the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship here live and exclusive on Apex Racing TV. Championship returns for round 8 as we head to Oulton Park in the UK, set in a former country estate on part of sweeping contours and picturesque setting, and assured it's one of England's most picturesque and popular racetracks, almost from its very first laps in the 1950s. The grounds lay on the ruins of the from a fire at Oulton Hall, and the Mid-Cheshire Motor Club realised that there was a much more interesting plot of land right on their doorstep, and began to persuade landowners to lease the land here and create a track that was different to the circuits emerging at former RAF bases after World War II, such as Thruxton, Goodwood, Snetterton and Silverstone. I'm Tim Cox. Behind the scenes in the production booth, we've got John Robertson. But right now, returning to us, it's DJ Clark. DJ, welcome back at Zandvoort. Last time out was a bit of a challenge for the drivers. Hard probably taking opportunities, but tonight, Oulton Park, what can we say? It's tight, it's fast, it's technical, and I think we're in for a great evening of racing.
I certainly think we are as well, and there are plenty of good overtaking opportunities around here, but you've got to be pretty aggressive to be able to get them down and going. We are running the layout with both chicanes at Britton's and Hislop, so that's going to present a little bit of a challenge for the drivers as it's going to really blunt their momentum down these long straightaways. But the biggest thing around here is that big M word: momentum, momentum, momentum. There's a lot of medium to high speed corners here, and you want to just keep the car on edge going through all of them to keep up that speed as much as possible.
As you say, momentum, clearly the key word of the day, as you even said it 3 times there, DJ, and well, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how our drivers get on today, as qualifying just underway at the moment. Of course, as always, open qualifying session, which is currently on their out laps. 10 minutes of qualifying before we head out into race 1 of the evening. 25 minutes with obviously race 2 to follow afterwards. As always, this series has got its 3 sponsors. First up, we've got Virtual Racing School, looking to improve your on-track performance with 50+ data packs for road and oval racing. They have setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching. Then we've got SDK Gaming, if you're looking to add a live virtual head to iRacing, show timing towers, enhanced relative boxes, mini-maps, fuel calculators and more. You can use it to stream to Twitch, the most complete overlay on iRacing, and also use it to broadcast your leagues and series like we do for all of our broadcasts here at Apex Racing TV. It syncs your commentary streams to the cameras, focus on drivers, overlays for your broadcasts, and you can also use it to adjust your team's strategy on the fly using obviously the fuel calculator, also the most accurate live timing on iRacing. And then finally, we've got Apex Racing Academy. They have a 29 days packs, setups, track guides, integration with one of our sponsors, Virtual Racing School, weekly group coaching sessions, and much, much more. And the drivers just off onto their first flying laps. You just see at the moment, Lassine, he'll be hoping for an absolute cracker once more. An absolute flying performance last time out at Zandvoort. And well, he picked up a win overall in class and also came 3rd overall in race 1. Definitely one driver to keep out for is the Belgium. Likewise, the usual protagonists are here of Christiansen, Goddestad, Strom. They'll be fighting it out near the front. Well, there's sure a few of the others. Tom Minot and Parker wants to watch out for. Scott Mokes had a lucky race too, some might argue, as he's starting to get some times coming in. Christensen setting the initial pace there, 133.8 with his teammate Strom going, well, I'd say only going within a 100th of a second slower than Goddestad, just pipping him in there to get onto the front row provisionally. 600ths of a second. DJ, we know we've seen such tight qualifyings this season, and I'm going to feel it's going to be no different whatsoever again today.
I have to agree with you there. It's going to be very, very close, especially with just as advanced as these drivers are. This is a very technical circuit despite a lot of those high-speed corners around here. And so drivers are going to have to really, really thread the needle, specifically going through Britton's there, the first of those chicanes. There is no room for error in those chicanes. If you get offline a little bit, those tire barriers, they are big, they are solid, and they will bite you.
I can fully verify that one for you, DJ. I've been in those a fair few times, for far too many to count. And also, I think this section as well, it's just watching Christensen come through now of Druids. It's, again, a very, very fine line of, if you keep it on the line, You can absolutely fly through there. However, if you just get it slightly wrong, you could end up off on the grass and in a whole world of pain.
Yeah, exactly. It's very old school in the way that it goes. There's not a lot of room for error, and you really just have to carry that, here comes the word again, momentum through those corners as much as possible, and trust the car, trust the aerodynamics, trust the grip level to keep you on the track. You can't be trying to think about, ooh, do I have enough grip to go through there? You have just got to trust that it's going to stick.
As we see an improvement from Christians there. Extend that lead out of the front by 4 tenths to a second, nearly half a second over Godestad. There's an reply shortly after by Parker to head up onto the front row, 2 tenths behind. Also Thomas Cope, he was originally still on the second row of the grid with a solid time there for the Brit. Got his home track with 1:33.9. Well, having to look at how close it is, our top 9 covered by 8 tenths of a second with we look at Dracia and Mokes, between them under a tenth, just separating two, in fact 7/100ths of a second. It's going to be so crucial, the qualifying here, isn't it, DJ, just to ensure you're as high up the grid as possible, because with it being quite a narrow track as well, although there are overtaking opportunities out there, and like you say, you do have to get your elbows out and be a bit brave to get those moves done. It is this is one of these tracks where it is the perennial, you tend to race where you qualify.
Yeah, there's not a lot of massive area to try to move your way forward. As I said, you can get by, but you're going to lose so much time in that battle that it's really going to probably be one of your only areas that you're going to be able to get a position over the course of the race. So you really want to try to qualify up towards the pointy end of this field. That is going to be the best way to ensure that you get a good result here come race end.
And we've got qualifying, we've got just coming out with 3 minutes left to give you an idea on track temperatures and such like. Out on track, well, it is, we've got an ambient temperature of 21 degrees Celsius. Track temperature, it's not too warm out there, 24 degrees, so got plenty of grip available for our drivers, and that's so key. Of course, the Porsche Cup car, no ABS, there's no traction control, it's all about the mechanical grip. Very little aero, as Tom's coach is having a little bit of a drift through Cascades there. Wild and Larry, that's not exactly going to help his time, as Chance having a poor final sector there despite going green in every other sector, and see any improvement from him at the moment. You see, tends to be, well, just seeing that not many of the drivers here don't seem to be improving on their times in these last stages of qualifying.
Yeah, and that's a little bit surprising. I would have expected the tires to come up to temperature a little bit more. It's only 75 degrees Fahrenheit out on track right now, and so I would have expected those tires to get into a perfect operating range. That is Urantis there having a little bit of a spin right in front of Thomas Coe. And I would have expected the faster laps to come a little bit later, but that's clearly not the case. Everyone is setting their fastest time in the earliest laps.
Coming through Druids now, and on the run down to Lodge Corner where you can get some momentum up, and then this tricky second to last corner. Well, technically it's second to last is Cope. Well, there you go, off track. That's going to be that lap time gone and done and dusted with that one, regardless of where he comes across the line. And Lodge Corner, it's another tricky corner, just like turn 1 as well, where with Lodge Corner, there's a real nasty bump around the apex, and then the track drops down, and it's so easy to lose the rear end of the car, especially in the early stages. And then once you just see him head around Old Hall Corner, which is turn 1, again, it's another corner where you have to be really patient on the accelerator, I find, DJ, because it feels like it should be a lot faster than what it is, but the outside of the track seems to come at you a lot quicker than what you would expect it to.
Yeah, it really does. It just tightens up, as you said, and it can kind of catch you off guard if you don't have enough practice laps. So it is an utterly unique circuit, I have to say. It drives really unlike any other on the sim.
No, it is indeed. It's, well, I'm going to be biased. I'm British. I absolutely love the place. But I've got to recommend as well, the LMP2 around here, if you fancy a bit of a hot lap, absolutely amazing. It's one of those combos you think shouldn't really work, but It really does. As you see Wadsworth having a bit of a drift out of Lodge Corner there. Let's see what that does to his time. No improvement. Okay, he's just over 0.2 of a second slower than his previous best. However, he is currently second in AM, 7th overall right now, behind Lacine, who leads AM. As you see, wow, got to start improving right at the death there. Just getting over the line in time to head up onto the front row of the grid. Into second place. A great lap from him right there at the end of qualifying. So your grid forms up of the two RPC Esports drivers of Christensen got us out on the front row of the grid. Then it's an all-British second row with Parker and Thomas Cope. Kim Strom, third row of the grid. Bit disappointing probably by his own standards. He's got the AM driver Lacina alongside him. Wadsworth in 7th. He's got Dan Dracia with him on the 4th row of the grid. Scott Merckx and Yamantas will round out your top 10 and the 5th row of the grid. There you got Daniel Merchant and Dan Palmer Lee in 11th, 12th with Tom Minot rounding out your 13-car field here at Oulton Park. And, well, it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers get on. Just waiting for them all to take to the grid now before we head off for race 1. As mentioned, 25 laps here. Of course, the grid for race 2 was taken from the race results on race 1. Of course, with the top 8, as always, being reversed. So expect to see battles up and down the field, especially at the rear for that all-important 8th place. So get yourself on pole for race 2. And just waiting for the last few drivers to grid up now before we'll be heading off and away. Well, I can't wait for this one, DJ. I can feel myself like vibrating with excitement already.
You and me both. This is going to be a great race to see. Some fantastic drivers take it to a fantastic little circuit.
Of course, it's going to be interesting to see how, like as you mentioned earlier, with the chicanes of Britons and Hislops, it's going to really mix things up here, and really looking forward to it. Just waiting for the last couple of drivers to take to the grid before we head off, and they're now making their way across very quickly, and we off racing here in race 1 of the evening, and time just ticking down, just waiting on Tom not to take the grid. He might be electing for a pit start, might prove wise, but here come the lights. Let's get ready to go racing at Oulton Park, and we are away. And well, you can see a really poor start in the background there by that was Dan Dracia, and he's fallen right to the tail end of the grid, but up front, Goddestad getting ahead of his teammate Christensen on the run down to turn 1. And now, well, you see Strom, what a start he has got as he tries to squeeze his way up the inside of Cope. As you just see in the foreground, well, the background there, technically, it's Goddestad in first place, just getting a little bit wide out of Cascades. As they come through the kink of Island Bend. Oh, there's contact there. Cope runs wide. There's also, I think that's Scott Mooks running wide in the background as well. Lacine, he's had a good start up to 5th place. But right now, it's the 3 RPC drivers leading 1, 2, 3 line astern as we come through Britons for the first time. Wow, DJ, it's already kicking off.
It certainly is, and it's a same story on a different day with the RPC Esports drivers running 1, 2, 3 right now, but Cope there trying to be very aggressive to hold on to that position around Cascades, just got himself out a little bit. Lacine looking very aggressive here, trying to get his way up on Parker. He knows that Wadsworth, that other AM driver, is directly behind him. He wants to try to put a car between himself and his competition.
How aggressive the lines are there from Lacine, or maybe he's just overcooked it a little bit too much, because Wadsworth is on the attack and having a bit of look up the inside there into Lodge Corner. Decides against it just to back out a little bit as we head down through the dip, and there's contact between the 2 AM drivers as Wadsworth getting a far better drive off the corner. Can he get a move done into turn 1? Old Hall, and he gets it done. Lacine looking for the switchback, but he's not going to be carrying enough pace and momentum, or is he? You've got Yamantas now joining in this 3-way fight all over 5th place, but no, they remain as they are, and Wadsworth takes the lead in AM.
Yes, he does. Just elbows out racing like I sort of predicted. The way to get by here at Oulton Park, you can't rely on a draft or a simple slipstream move. You have really got to chuck that car down to the inside as they go down into shell oils here, trying to see what will be be at the exit. Crucial that you nail that exit out of the corner. Ooh, looks like there that Juventus running a little bit wide, kicking up a little bit of dirt.
Coming through, Britain's now head down, Hilltop on the run down to Hislops. Oh, already got to start pulling out a 7/10 lead over his teammate Christiansen. Strom in 3rd place, Parker 4th, Wadsworth 5th overall, leading in AM. Lacine 2nd in AM, 6th overall. There's Yamantas in 7th. Merchant holding on to that crucial 8th place, and also the 3rd place in AM with Palmer Lee, Cope, Jasia, Minor on Mokes rounding out your field here. Scott Mokes up and running and looking to through the field from the back. But right now, it's all about Goddesad and just with a nice clear open track in front of him. Putting down some almost quali style laps now to really try and give himself a big gap as I've just spotted Mantas has managed to get his way past Lacine. That's going to really help Wadsworth and giving him a buffer now between himself and his fellow AM driver. See Yamantas for once in front of him, but Yamantas, you can bet your bottom dollar he'll be straight up onto the back of Wadsworth. As last time around, Strom setting the fastest lap of the race, only just by 300ths of a second over Christiansen, but even so, taking that early bit of kudos, but still everything to play for. But just coming up to 21 minutes remaining in race 1 as a bit of dust cupped up there as Merchant now right on to the back of Lacine, who after that incredible start, DJ, just seems to be just losing a bit of that momentum as you mentioned earlier, and just falling off a little bit off the back of Yamantas.
Yeah, it just looks like he's driving in his head a little bit. He's a little bit passive going into the corners, not going into full aggression mode the way that you really need to attack these twisty bits around this Oulton Park circuit. And so for him, I think he needs to have a lap or two here to just settle down, get his headspace back together, and go on the full attack here and try to gain back in on Juventus and ultimately Wadsworth, who is the leader in AM right now.
Well, you see just how much the scene pushing there, running wide, but taking a look back at the start, you see what a start that Strom got off the line, really managed to launch the car. And it's in fact Parker, the biggest loser in that opening stages, losing place to Strom as Cope went on the attack and they came down through Cascades for the first time. I swear it's so tricky in these opening stages. You get shoved offline, you can lose so much momentum. That's what happened to Cope. On the run up to Island Bend, though, this is where it got interesting, and well, you can't really go too wide through that corner, and maybe a bit ambitious from Cope, and well, himself and Mokes there just both finding contact with the barrier.
Yeah, and I didn't see that contact that actually happened between Cope and I believe that was Anderstrom there earlier on, so definitely elbows out racing. They're not intentional by either driver, just as you said, really difficult to go too wide through Island Bend, and you know, Cope, I think, maybe should have chosen discretion as the better part of valor. They're backed off a little bit and tried to have an attack later on.
Interesting. Christensen just slowly chipping away at Goddesad. That gap has come down by a 10th, and this time around Christensen went 2/10 quicker than Goddesad ahead of him. So although maybe initially a bit of working together, even so, you sense that these three will start battling with one another. Of course, they hold the lion's share between them of race victories this season, but you sense it's as much as it's all friendly, it's maybe not just a second covering all three of them. So just see Strom, the new fastest lap of the race there. These guys getting quicker and quicker.
And that's a little bit to be expected, fuel burning off in these cars as the race goes along, so that will make the cars a little bit more lively. You're able to push a little bit more, get a little bit more top speed out of them. It's not like you're driving a single-seater where they are super light and that fuel is massively important, but it still does play an instance. But I do have to agree with you there, Tim, that I think we're going to see a little bit of formation flying here to try to pull away as much as possible from Parker. But if an attack comes up specifically here, Strom on Christensen, I've got to think Kim Anderstrom is going to go for it.
He's got that gap, obviously, right on board with Kim Anderstrom right now, heading down to Hislops. And You can visually see just how much that gap has shrunk. It's now down to 0.3 of a second between himself and Christensen. And equally, obviously, Christensen just eking a little bit, not quick as what Strom's got onto the back of Christensen, but just closing that gap up ever so slightly, bit by bit, onto the back of Godestad. Take the double right-hander of Druids, and wow, just a little bit out onto the gas there, Christensen. That's not going to happen. And Strom having a little bit of a look on his teammate there, up the inside into Lodge Corner, thinks about it. There's that bump. You can really see the way that Strom was just wrestling with the steering wheel as he was applying the power. We head down into turn 1, Old Hall. Let's see how they get on. If there's anyone running a bit wide, but down in the midfield, it's all happening once again as this is Lacine losing a place to Palmer Lee. After that, wow, what was a flying start from Lacine. He's now got Cope, who looked down and out from the start. Obviously missing that front bunny. That's not exactly going to be helping his aerodynamics, but even so, Lacine, the only thing I can think of, you said about how he seems to be driving in his head a little bit initially, DJ. I mean, is it also to the fact of maybe he's just overcooked his tyres a little bit?
He could have overheated him here. We go back to check out a replay. Ran very wide there. Oh, that's what it was. That was coming over Lodge Corner right before Dearly, and that cost him dearly. Yeah, and then that can happen at a technical circuit like this. You just get into your own head. As you can see there, Cope able to get on by him. You get into your own head and you start seeing the corners where you've made a mistake, and the only thing you can think about is that mistake that you've made, and it just kind of becomes a self-perpetuating cycle, unfortunately.
So come out of Knickerbrook and head up Clay Hill, past Water Tower, down to the tricky double right-hander that is Druids. Just trying to pick up as much as that momentum as DJ was mentoring underneath the bridge and out the corner exit. Right down to Lodge. Merchant right now. Palmer Lee, I tell you what, he's queuing up behind him. Take you through your race order, just coming up to 10 minutes complete. Godestad leads from Christensen, Strom. We just see Palmer Lee coming under a bit of pressure there from Thomas Cope, who's going to make the recovery and get back up through the field. Parker 4th, Wadsworth leading in Amstel, still 5th overall. Yamantas 6th. Merchant and Palmer Lee there, 7th and 8th overall, 2nd and 3rd in respectively. Cope 9th, Lacine rounding out your top 10. Jasia 11th, Minot 12th, and then Mopes is in 13th and well off the back. And we see an attack and a lock up there. Palmer Lee, well, deliberately opened up his steering there because he could see Cope coming flying up the inside and looking to preserve his own race there and not get caught from any incidents potentially, DJ, I think, from Palmer Lee.
Yeah, that was a little bit of just driving with the long game in mind, not wanting to go for it, not wanting to end up like Cope with that missing hood, as you said before. So I like that mentality from him, just try to maximize on points. He is right now on the podium for the ARA class, so definitely a drive of preservation, it looks like right now.
See, that's obviously it hasn't cost him a place in AM, but what it has cost him is that crucial 8th place, which obviously gives you pole position for race 2. And it'll be interesting to see what is Cope's tactics, because at the moment his next competitor in class is Yamantas, which is currently in 6th place, and some 4 3/4 seconds off the up the road. I mean, still a good chunk of the race left here. I mean, we've got just over 13.5 minutes, well, exactly to be fair, left of race 1. What do you think is Thomas Cope's tactics right now? Does he stay where he is in 8th place to secure that pole position for race 2? Or does he try and get ahead of Merchant, of course, these two teammates, both of Olympus Esports, and then just try and get after Yamantas and claim that extra place in class?
I think at this point, with the damaged car, you fight tooth and nail to just hold on to that 8th place position. We've seen good speed out of Thomas Cope. Let warm-up serve as a bit of a reset for him and start on pole for that second race. He will be massively ahead of position, obviously ahead of Godderstead, Christensen, and Strom, those RPC Esports drivers. I think that should be about where he's thinking. Now, I could see him try to get by Merchant here, maybe a little bit of team tactics, as he will be starting on the front row at that point. But I wouldn't want to try to move too farther up. Granted, you say all of that, and that is thinking about it logically. And, well, Tim, these guys are racers, so if there's a driver in front of you, you're still going to want to go for the move no matter what.
It's so true. And just looking at this now as well, you know, I mean, Cope had got a bit of a comfortable cushion over Palmer Lee, who has also got his own threat behind in the form of Lacine, who's really started to close up. And these four really bunching up right now, and Cope almost acting as rear gunner for Merchant. Having said that, looking a bit of a look up the inside, certainly no team orders going on here. You see Palmer Lee just behind Cope right now, taking a much tighter line there through Cascades as they head up Lakeside. We see another move into Shell Oils from Cope. He won't be quite as aggressive on his teammate as well, having another look up the inside there. Certainly no team orders going on here whatsoever, DJ.
No, none at all. That little look up to the inside of Shell Oils, as you said, and it's very, very difficult to get a pass done there. It's sort of anti-progressive banking, very similar to the carousel at the Nürburgring, that it flattens out up at the top. So if you get put up on the high side there, very, very difficult to get a good run, and that can sometimes be a good tactic if you're trailing behind to try to put a car up onto that higher line. But watch Cope here. Yeah, he is hassling his teammate, and there's no other word for him.
I just saw in the background there, Lacine, because they came down hilltop, looking for a bit of a move there over Palmer Lee into Hinslops, not able to get the move done, and it's cost him a little bit just in terms of time, but Lacine seems to be recovering that form and that early pace that he had in the opening couple of laps, and starting to put the pressure, looking a bit more aggressive over the back of Palmer Lee right now. As man, it's that Cope and Merchant have just been able to pull away a little bit, just get some fresh air between themselves and the two cars at the rear of this train. Interesting to see what Lacine can do from here. You know, it's very easy. He's got all the cars in front of him. You can see them all as well. You see Palmer Lee almost contacts into the rear there of Cope, where Cope seems to be it's not obvious that he's struggling around the rest of the circuit, but through Cascades, I've spotted the last couple of laps, DJ, he seems to be really suffering through there, through understeer.
Well, that's not to be surprised. Cascades is one of the higher speed sections on the track, and obviously not a lot of downforce in these Porsche Cup machines, but that front downforce, pushing down on the car, getting those front tire grip, that a lot is generated by the nose and the hood of the car, and with Cope missing that, he's going to be missing that grip, and that is a one-way ticket to understeer city.
I'll tell you what, I've just been keeping half an eye on the times. You just see him lubing in the background there behind these four. Is Dan Garcia, currently 11th overall, 7th in pro. And I'll tell you what, he's slowly starting to close up onto the back of these guys. 9 minutes left. There is a chance that this was currently a 4-way fight for 7th. Could actually end up turning into a 5-way fight, because that gap is, it's coming down again once more. He's been that into every corner in the braking zones. That's where he's able to really catch up. I'm guessing that's because where he's not having to, the drivers in front are obviously having to think about the driver in front of them and try and outbrake them and one another, and just they're all slowing each other up right now. Nobody's really helping out one another.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's certainly it. As I said earlier, this isn't exactly a track where the draft is going to be a big part. As there you can see again that little bit of understeer for Cope. Potentially open up a little bit from behind from Palmer Lee as he's looking a little bit aggressive. But yeah, you've got to be checking yourself up going into the corner, because you're not braking for yourself. You're braking for the driver in front of you to make sure you don't rear end them. And that's going to cost you valuable tenths as you work your way along the lap. So I think that's allowing for Dan Garcia to be able to catch up.
I mean, to put it in perspective, DJ, he was literally a fraction. We're talking, a hundredth of a second, but even so, it was just over a second quicker last time around. Coming on board with Lacine at the rear of this 4-car train, and sense that it's going to take either a mistake from one of these drivers or someone maybe getting a bit feisty and aggressive with their move to try and, you know, almost force the issue to get past. It's going to split up these guys, and with the clock ticking down, those opportunities are becoming less and less right now as we head down to Lodge Corner. It's really tricky, as I mentioned, that sort of rise, the crest of the corner, just past the apex, so tricky, especially in these cars that don't have traction control. Dracia, let's have a look at what his time was last time around versus the rest. So last time it was 6/10 quicker, and that gap is now down to under half a second. The Romanian's coming, and well, he's going to be right up onto the back of them, roughly at that sort of pace within the next couple of laps, as we see Lacine finally getting the move done over Palmer Lee there. Not the most conventional spaces into Island Bend, but even so, got himself up into ninth, and now what can he do? Can he make progress against Cope, where the others haven't been able to? And you see, well, Dracia now right up onto the back of Palmer Lee.
Exactly, it's all starting to fire off here, and a very, very good move for Lacine, as you said, through Island Bend, just positioning that car. Cope, I think, feels the pressure from Lacine. It looks like he is pushing really hard to get past his teammate now of Merchant. Maybe that transfer position of just holding on to P8 going out the window a little bit now that he sees a faster car coming up behind.
Clock is ticking down. 6 minutes left here in race 1 from Oulton Park. This fascinating battle being played out. Just keeping you up to date for what's happening up at the front. Pretty much remains as was. We've got a stat. He's leading. That gap has slowly come down to just under half a second. Just over 4 tenths. There it is right now. Wow, really losing 10-4-2 there through Cascades. Strom, he's dropped off the back of these guys. He's had a poor lap last time around. That's where all the time has disappeared to. Parker, he's 4th overall. Wadsworth still leading in 5th overall. Yamanta 6th. Merchant 7th, obviously in Cope 8th. Lacine 9th. Palmer 10th, and Dracia 11th. Obviously we've seen those 5 very closely for the last few laps. Why not? He's in 12th, and Scott Mokes rounding out your field currently in 13th. 12th. This is Christensen really finding some pace over his teammate in these latter stages. Another one maybe thinking, right, okay, I haven't got long left now. Where, you know, roughly these guys are lapping at around about a 1 minute 34. Ironically, these two actually set exactly the same lap time last time around. And I think maybe this is, you know, where Christensen's going to start to eye up a move over his teammate.
I think you're right. Only 4.5 minutes here to go. If Christensen wants to go for this move, it is starting to be now or never time. And I think he knows, much like we saw in that move in the back between Lacine and Palmer Lee, he may have to do it in a little bit of an unorthodox area. Jumping back, though, Cope all up the rear bumper of his teammate, with Lacine starting to press in behind as well.
Well, this is going to be an interesting free battle in this fight. 3 cars. Of course, only 2 of them can be inside the top 8. Currently, Merchant and Cope occupying that of Olympus Esports, and Cope once again up on the rear bumper of his teammate, almost trying to bump draft him along there as they came down the hill through Dentons into Cascades. But what can Lacine do? Like Christensen knows that time is running out. He's running out of opportunities to try and get a move done. As we head through Island Bend, and once again Cope taking that much shallower line. We've seen him take that all race long, clearly favouring and finding able to find some grip lower down, whereas his teammate Merchant at the front of this train opting for more traditional sort of wider entry. They come through Britons. You can see just the drive that Cope is getting off the corner much better compared to his teammate. And equally, well, these 3 are holding each other up. That's now brought Palmer Lee and Dracia right back into the fight. I just sense this is going to be an absolute epic fight to the finish on the final lap.
I have to agree with you. I think there's a little bit of hesitancy here. Everybody holding out a second to see when that perfect opportunity can arise. And if it doesn't arise before the time the white flag gets in the air, then all hell will break loose.
You see for the first time Cope going defensive to the inside. He's sensing the pressure and he can feel it right now. The Lacine is applying to the back of them as they come out through dearly. Just looking at the clock, we're going to have 2 laps remaining. They come through turn 1. What can Lacine do? He needs to hook up a good exit as he's not been able to do. This more important corner through Cascades. Camber corner as the track drops downhill. Makes the front end push out wide, generating understeer. Now through Island Bend. Into shallow oils. You can see once again Cope taking that much shallower line. So acting doubly as defensive move against Lacine behind him. This is a section where you can gain and lose so much time through the chicane, and Britain's close to you there. Oh, was that even a bit of contact there from Lacine onto the back of Cope?
I think it may have been. Gloves are starting to come off here.
Well, you can see once again, Merchant, oh, slight mistake there. He'll be able to keep hold of that position as this is an overtaking opportunity out of Knickerbrook and wants to get just surviving. Lacine dropping back. This is played right into the hands of Merchant and Cope, and here comes Parmalee on the attack. As they come through, Druids and Dressia wanting a piece of action. He's tucked up right behind them. Well, everyone running wide on the grass, on the exit. Dressia, where he had a bit of a bounce across the curbs, and Druids managed to hold on, but that has cost him time-wise. Lacine, that rear end just getting a little bit drifty and a little bit loose. As they came out through Lodge Corner, the white flag flies. 1 lap left to go from race 1 at Oulton Park of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship. And can Merchant hold off as he has done for so many laps against his teammate Cope? You get the feeling that the form book says he can do it. But we haven't got long left to find out. Roughly 2/3 of a lap left here, and for once, Merchant just pulling a bit of a gap over his teammate Cope. Maybe Cope sensing that he's running out of opportunities, or even that he's run out. Hence why he's just backing off a little bit, but Lacine, he's coming back for another bite of the cherry. Is up front. Goddestad and Christensen. Still 2 tenths apart, and Christensen, well, he's got one big opportunity now, and that is down the hill into Lodge Corner, but he's going to be too far back here, DJ. I think this is done and dusted.
I think it is as well. He tries to be later on the brakes as they plow their way up and over Deer Leap now, but there goes Goddestad.
Goddestad taking the victory. Christensen second. Strom, he's going to come home to complete your podium with Parker 4th. Wadsworth's going to pick up a win in AM and 5th overall. Just see him come across the line. Now this is the fight we're all interested in, and Cope not able to get the move done. And somehow, amazingly, despite them all being bumper to bumper for so many laps, they're going to cross the line, or are they? Let's see. Well, you just saw Parmalee just pulling out the slipstream there. Wonder for a minute whether he might be able to get past Lacine, but not quite in the end. As Minot comes across the line. Wow, what another absolute cracking race. There we go, and we'll be able to bring you through your official results here incredibly shortly. Let's just wait for the last drivers to cross the line, and here they are from race 1. You'll see your Class 5 results. So Goddestad with the victory, Christensen in second with Strom rounding out your podium. We've got Parker in 4th. 5th place is our winner in AM, which is Wadsworth. Yamantas in 6th, 2nd in AM is Merchant, and 7th overall. 8th is Thomas Cope. In the end, just not able to quite get past his teammate. However, he will pick up pole position for race 2. Lacine in 9th, and picking up the last podium place actually in AM. Parmalee rounds out your top 10. We just see a Minot and Mokes rounding out your field in race 1. So, we're going to head to a quick commercial break now. We're going to see you on the other side for race 2.
Get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use. Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers, including Peter Berryman, John Robertson, Brandon Trano, and IndyCar World Champion Alex Palou. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Welcome back, and just see Christensen practicing his starts, which she has been doing for a couple of minutes there. Looking to clearly jump a few places in race 2. Of course, he'll be starting down the field on the 4th row of the grid. Now, interesting one for you, DJ. Do you know why the corner here, Knickerbrook, got its name?
You've got me on that one. I am not entirely sure.
Well, there you go. So it's a bit of an interesting story, this one. So, when the circuit was, going way back, there was some old, I believe there were oak trees down there. Now, a local demolition expert by the name of, and you have to be careful not to have the slip of the tongue on this one, called Blaster Bates. I kid you not, that was his genuine name. He was brought in to detonate them and remove them that way. And in doing so, and the second explosion, they then saw 2 people get up from the reefs nearby and run away. Well, obviously, didn't take a lot for the imagination to understand what they were up to, and just to confirm it, later on they found a pair of knickers in the brook, so hence why it got its name.
Well, all right. Now that is a story worth retelling.
It is. It's one of the more unique ways to name your corners here, isn't it, really? Normally they're named after a famous driver or something that would have stood there previously. But yeah, a bit of an interesting story with that one. And on that bombshell, it's time for race 2. But wow, of course, for the race first kid, it's going to play interesting. Cope, he's on the front row with his fellow Olympus Esports teammate and Merchant, joining him on the front row. Yamantas, he's in third with Wadsworth, our winner in AM in race 1. He's going to start on the second row and in 4th place. James Parker, he's got Kim and Strong for company on the 3rd row of the grid. And all RPC Esports of our 1st and 2nd place drivers from race 1 of Christensen and Goddestad. Lacine, he's starting from 9th with fellow AM driver Palmer Lee sharing that row. Jasia and Minot on the 6th row of the grid, and Scott Moakes, he's going to run out your field. He'll be hoping for a bit of redemption, a bit of a better race. Likewise with Mine Not, but still, they will have their work cut out from the back of the grid. But only just ahead of them are our podium from the previous race. So definitely going to be interesting as we get ready for race 2. And here come the lights, and let's get ready to go racing once more. And we are away in race 2 from Oulton Park, and you can see the start of the RPC guys have got it in the background there. But Thomas Cope has taken the lead. Merchant, he's dropping places. Cope runs a bit wide. And Merchant from the front row of the grid, he's lost 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 places right now, as he's got Christensen heading up the inside him. The only car really to pass him out of the reverse grid has been Goddestad so far, and Parker. But Parker not getting the best of starts either. He dropped 3 places down to 8th. So they come round now to Shell Oils for the first time in race 2. And you can see Wadsworth. Oh, and a bit of contact there between the 2 RPC drivers. And that's just allowed Strom to get past. Sorry, he's just managed to retain that from Strom. That was incredibly close. Could have been an absolute disaster there. And of course, we've seen RPC drivers come together on the opening laps. That was, of course, all the way back at race 2 at Barber Motorsport Park.
Indeed, we have very, very lucky not to have anything happen with the camera on that corner. It is very easy to lose control like that on the exit of the corner. But right now, Christensen able to keep going here, carrying the flag for RPC, trying to work on Wadsworth. And up front, Thomas Cope doing exactly what he needs to do, trying to pull as much of a gap as possible.
Now through Druids, and you see Wadsworth taking that defensive line very, very early. Christensen trying to find a way around the outside. It's going to be tricky. Wadsworth just bumping across the curbs, shutting the door on the exit against Christensen, just trying to kill off any momentum, and then automatically taking that defensive line into Old Hall. But what this means has happened is now Strom is right onto the back of his teammate. They've already had one coming together early on. And Strom decides to back out of it a little bit, but he's got Goddestad tucked up right behind him. So they all run wide, so easy to pick an off track up on the exit of Cascades. And right now, it's more about the fight between RPC internally. Strom trying to find a way past Christensen. A little bit of a lock up there from Wadsworth. The AM driver will be desperate, making yet another AM driver on the podium in the championship to head into Britain's. But you get the feeling, DJ, this is going to be a move surely on sooner rather than later. But Wadsworth, well, he's defending it for his life, already taking that defensive line instantly, and he's going to make his car as wide as possible as Christensen snatches a break, but just about manages to hold on to onto the position over his teammate.
Yeah, things are getting feisty here for RPC as they just get bottled up behind Wadsworth. That was a very, very aggressive move from Strom, trying to make that move down into Hislop chicane. Now they work their way through Druids. This is the little bit of the area that a draft can come into play. Already going very defensive again is Wadsworth. He does not want to give this position away.
He does not. He is defending it for his life. Trying to make that Porsche 911 Cup car out as wide as the track as he goes defensive once more. So surely there's only so long before he can prevent these moves from working. Once again, he holds off the advances of Christensen, and that's now creating a real big train behind him. I think surely he's got to be hoping that he can back Christensen up enough that he'll force him into Strom. But Christensen getting the much better run out of Cascades. He's pulled out alongside, along lane side, and this is surely going to be moved on into Isle of Bet, but Wadsworth has none of it. Holds on round the outside with a bit of a lock up at the brake, and they're going to be side by side through Shell Oils. Who's going to come out on top on the run out of the corner? Well, Wadsworth runs Christensen out wide, and he's dropped 2 places, maybe even 3 as well. His contact between himself and Palmer, who locked up the car on entry into Britain's. It always gets spicy in race 2, DJ, but wow, someone's turned the dial up to 11.
Indeed, and I think Parker there just getting caught out by the fact he didn't expect Christensen to be coming back onto the road there at that point, so no malicious contact. Just a bit of surprise there for him, is now Christensen's got to regather himself back up and try to go, and now the driver who's going to take up the torch on trying to get by Wadsworth is going to be Kim Anderstrom.
picking up the mantle from his teammate Christensen. He sees just in the background there. Right now, what can Wadsworth do? He's got a little bit of breathing space and taking the defensive line so much. For Strom compared to what he had with Christensen. They come through Old Hall corner. Once again, Wadsworth just holding them off for now. The personal best for so many of the drivers in these opening early stages. 5 minutes complete out of the 25. Your order is Cope. From your Mansas, Wadsworth, we can see him in third. And also your leader in Amber. For how much longer? As Strom has a look up the inside, Wadsworth already has shut the door on Christensen. And does the same to Strom. Through Island Bend once more. And the technical Wadsworth driver is driving impeccably right now. And using literally the skin of his teeth, literally the raggedy edge of his fingernails is holding onto that third position. Strom 4-4, a mistake from Wadsworth. That's a little Strom through and onto the grass is Christensen trying to get through as well as Wadsworth holds it up alongside. Who's going to come out on top? And Christensen just has to yield there. So he's got to start, apologies about that. He's got to start making the move there, but yeah, he's in fifth. Christensen sixth, Palmer seventh. Lucine, Mokes ninth, then Minot 10th, Palmer Lee. Merchant and Dracia rounding out your field, but well, Wadsworth is proving to be one tricky customer to get past right now for the three RPC drivers.
Yeah, nobody told Wadsworth here that he was an AM driver, driving like an absolute pro here, keeping who has been the class of the field behind him at this point. A little bit of a brake lock up there. Oh, that's Yumantis falling all the way down through the field.
I did wonder, there seemed to be too much of a larger puff of smoke there for a lockup, but I couldn't see anyone initially. But Yamantas has gone as right now Wadsworth needs to defend from Goddardstad, who's hanging on around the outside, going for a different line. He's going to look for the switchback. Can he carry the momentum through Cascades? Let's find out as they head up to Island Bend. We know Wadsworth is strong through here, and he shuts the door, where he's done to pretty much all three of the RPC drivers through Island Bend so far. They come round Shell Oils. Well, I tell you what, this is a defensive masterclass in these early stages from Wadsworth of how to defend around Oulton Park in a Porsche Cup car.
Absolutely incredible stuff from them as he goes defensive again, going down into the second chicane of Hislop's. Not going to be able to get the move done. There is Goddardstad, and all of this scrapping has really allowed for Parker now to catch up to the back of him.
I'll tell you what, Lucine and Mox, they're not far off either, and I expect to see those two to join in the fun and the back end of this train. We see Strom pulling away, and Jutsi Amantas come falling off track. That doesn't mean that Wadsworth is still in third overall. The YAM driver as he goes defensive once more. Got to stand more alongside than anyone has been so far, but he needs to be careful. Both of them do, because Christensen now looking defensive. Wadsworth goes defensive incredibly early. Everyone moving across, just trying to pick up some slipstream from him. So they head down into turn one and just squeezing to the outside. Wadsworth over Goddardstad there and keeping hold of the position once more, but here comes Goddardstad with a lunge up the inside, and Wadsworth surely is going to yield. No, there's contact, and that's going to give him a chance to scamper off on the road, but Lucine, he could pick everyone's pocket. He's made up a place already past Goddardstad, and Parker's followed through as well. And well, yet again, Wadsworth proves to be the arch nemesis for another RPC driver. This time it's Goddardstad, and now Christensen is at the front of this train, looking to hunt down the Brit and try and find a way past yet again.
Oh my goodness gracious, this is just a bad day going to worse here a little bit for some of the RPC Esports drivers, and all of this has really allowed for Thomas Cope to streak off into the lead, but there you can see Parker and Goddardstad. Goddardstad able to hold on to that sixth place.
Really feisty between these guys right now. I'll tell you what, Scott, so what's happened to Scott Mox, because he's dropped right off the back of these guys as well. He was he was literally just within sight, so what's happened to him out on track as well? It's all finally calmed down a little bit, and Wadsworth has a little bit of breathing space over a car behind him. Just around about a second between Wadsworth and Christensen right now. We're seeing wow, don't discredit him as well. He had great pace in the opening stages and the latter part of race 1. Looking to carry over that rich vein of form and momentum that he was carrying through in the previous race. Moats takes them to the pit lane. I sense that is going to be a retirement potentially for him. This looks like race over for Scott Moats, but wow. The front right corner of Roger Christensen's car looking a little bit worse for wear.
Yeah, and that will affect the downforce characteristics of the car. As we said, not a lot of downforce being generated here, primarily mechanical grip in these Porsche Cup cars. But as long as his suspension is not damaged, he should be able to carry on relatively okay.
Strong really pulling away from the Wadsworth right now. That gap is extending out to 3 seconds. Cope, well, he's in a little bubble of his own, 5 seconds clear of Strom. Those two actually Cope setting a little bit quicker lap time compared to Strom right now. Lapping around about 3 tenths quicker, but this gap is closing bit by bit, down to 7 tenths. At this point last lap it was 1 second. Christensen is coming from Wadsworth. Will Wadsworth be able to hold on? But it's going to take Christensen maybe a couple of laps just to catch up to the back of Wadsworth. Coming up to, well, not far off, half race distance. Strom setting the fastest lap of the race. Last time around, personal best for Wadsworth and Christensen. They come around turn 1. These guys are really, really pushing hard right now.
Yeah, they really are. You can tell that the gloves have come off here in this second race and just doing everything they can do to try to get their way on forward. Christensen in full attack mode, trying to get back by Wadsworth as we've got a little bit of a fight in the back.
This is your Mantas just trying to find a way past Minot, and he's going to get that move done up to 8th. That's the AM driver, of course, Minot not having the best of opening laps and best of times really in general here at Oulton Park. Mantas has got a bit of a gap between himself and Parker, some 4 seconds up the road from him right now. Mantas has got his work cut out. Of course, he was running in second in the early stages of this race. Fallen right down, but this battle for third, it is back on. It's Wadsworth versus Christensen, part 2 here at Oulton Park. And this time, can Wadsworth hold off once again and fend off the advances of Christensen? He's got the whole second half of the race to find out. He's already, you can see him going defensive. He's made it work so many times and probably going to be employing exactly the same tactics. But do you think Christensen would have learned from his adventures on the first time these two were battling it out?
Yeah, I certainly think he would, and I think for Christensen here, what the name of the game is going to be is trying to make an attack in an unorthodox area. We've seen some moves going down into Island Bend before. I would look for maybe trying to get an attack into Druids, maybe even Cascades as well. It's all just trying to catch Wadsworth off guard. That's what's going to be, and here it is, down into Island Bend. Here they go.
Or is it? We know Wadsworth is really, really good around here, and then, wow, how did they not touch through Island Bend? And they're still side by side through Shell Oils. Wadsworth has got the inside line. He forced out wide Christensen previously. He doesn't do it this time. They're still side by side on the entry into Brent. Can Christensen find a way round the outside? And it looks like he's finally managed to get the move done. Christensen up into third, but it's not all done and dusted as Wadsworth trying to look on the attack once more. But Lacine trying to get involved where Wadsworth desperately didn't want him to. And equally, we've got Goddardstad as well, trying to find his way past Lacine as Lacine runs wide. And that's now going to give Goddardstad just a little bit of breathing space that he would have wanted. And now hopefully mount an attack back onto the rear end of Christensen.
Indeed, but Parker not letting this go. He is holding on nice and tight behind Goddardstad to keep that fight alive between the 166 and the 120.
So looking across the chat, Haley Banks really appreciating and that supporting Wadsworth right now in his endeavours. Really leading in but wow, really mixing up and desperate for a podium place overall. see we've got RPC Thomas in the chat as well saying bring it home. We took the GT3 Pro Team Championship yesterday, and that was for RPC Esports, so looking to continue on where they left off. However, Drommy's, well, he has got his work cut out, but he has been closing up onto Cope for that victory overall. Gap down now to 2.9 seconds. It was out as much as 4. That gap is closing. Just see another of the RPC Esports driver. This is Goddestad. He looks to bring along Parker with him, and they're going to try and close up back onto the rear end of Wadsworth. Of course, as we saw previously, Wadsworth has had a skirmish with Goddestad. I think Strom was the only one who he didn't have a real, a bang doors moment with, or an extreme tussle with, out of all 3 of the RPC guys.
No, he was able to get that move done on Wadsworth pretty easy and just be able to get his way on by. Christensen and Goddardstead both following foul there of some contact, so Strom very much the one who got off the better for wear.
We've got just under 10 minutes, well, approaching closer to 9 left. Drasia's just managed to get past Merchant. Let's just run you through your order. So Cope leads from Strom. I just mentioned this earlier, down to 2.4 seconds. Christensen in that last podium place. Wadsworth leading in and 4th overall right now, but he's been hunted down by Goddestad. That gap is closing up visually right in front of your eyes as well as on the timing sheets. Lacine, so Parker 6th, Lacine 2nd in AM, 7th overall, Yamantas 8th, Minot 9th overall, 10th in AM, so you have 3rd in AM with Palmer Lee 10th, Jasia 11th, Merchant 12th, and Max rounding out your field, but he has unfortunately retired. Wow, what is going to happen once again between these two, Wadsworth versus Goddestad? Well, it's round 2 as we ride on board with Goddestad right now as he desperately tries to find a way past the Brit, down onto the brakes into Britain. And now, who's got the better exit? You know Wadsworth's going to go defensive early on. He's not going to be budged off that inside line. He's going to make Goddestad do all the work, and Goddestad just having to back out once more. Wadsworth still holding on, but now Parker's right up onto the back of them. Could Wadsworth surely? I mean, this is very tricky. I mean, can he find a way to try and back Goddestad up even more so into Parker, so much so that Parker can try and find a way past, or at least those two start battling, so he can try and give himself a bit more breathing space.
I think he basically needs to do exactly what he's doing now. You saw that run through Hislop's, just a little bit of a fade past the first corner to push Goddardstead almost off and onto the grass. Goddardstead getting a good run, though, here over Deerleap. About maybe having a little bit of attack, still thinking about having a little bit of an attack through Old Hall. They're going to be side by side. It's going to be a drag race down into Cascades.
This is surely going to be the move done, as you see Wadsworth just taking a bit of the curb and some more. And finally, Goddestad's find his way past Wadsworth. Parker and able to follow Goddestad through. So he saw his after Yamantas. He's dropped to place or 2. And Goddestad finally finds a way past Wadsworth, who's defended for his life, and I think is he even run wide as Parker's got past Wadsworth. And I'm trying to look back, DJ, I can't even see him. He's fallen right back, so I think Wadsworth must have come off track there, surely.
Yeah, he just had a little bit of understeer coming through shell oils, and that is enough to have thrown him off. Let's check out the replay here. Wasn't under massive attack, just locked up those fronts, and that sent him wide in contact with the outside wall to boot.
Wow, after such a flawless and impeccable race from Wadsworth, now finds himself in seat. This has a round about 1.2 second advantage though over second in class. Lacine talking of second places. Well, Strom, he's brought that gap down to 1.6 seconds. And we've got 6 seconds remaining of race 2. Strom has got every chance, if he carries up this same rate at which he's catching Cope, he's coming onto the back of him within the next couple of laps. So I think this could be a last lap attempt from Strom to get his way past Cope. And that's if he can catch him. It's going to be tough, DJ. It's going to be really close, this one.
Well, it's going to be very tough, and as we like to say quite often, catching is one thing and passing is another thing altogether. It's very, very difficult to get by, and I mean, he's been able to close that gap down from about that 5-second mark, as you've said, but it is still going to be a monumental effort to get past somebody like Cope, who is no novice when it comes to defending.
Yeah, Cope definitely no slouch, and 5 minutes remaining. That means that Strom needs to, well, just to get up onto the back of Cope, to get alongside him, he needs to catch him at the rate of around about 2 tenths per minute. Let's see how he gets on. Now, last time around, so last lap, of course, about a 1 minute 34 lap roughly here, but Strom was 6 tenths quicker than Cope. So at that rate, he will be right on his bumper come the end of the next lap. That's if he can make that sort of pace differential. So we come down into the last corner. It is Lodge through DLE. Down to Oulton. Let's take a look at the lap times as they cut the timing beam. Well, it's under a second. And he takes out of Cope another further 6 tenths of a second. Wow, this is going to be so close between these two. As you were saying, DJ, Cope is no slouch. He's not going to be wanting to be giving up that position for the victory. And of course, Cope, he's just having a look. He's only had what, 2 victories to his name. Of course, last time out at Zandvoort, also in race 2, and also his other victory came earlier back in the season at round 2 at Mid-Ohio. But he also took the victory in race 2, so Cope definitely a race 2 specialist in terms of victories.
Yeah, indeed, and this, remember, was all precipitated by he had that incident in the first race and found himself in the position to be starting off in the reverse grid. So that is exactly what some of that that really helps him out, but Strom here still continuing to close that gap, now under 5 tenths of a second as we close in here. Should be crossing the line with about 3 minutes to go.
Wow, place your bets now, folks. Who is going to come out on top? Will it be Cope? Will it be Strom? The gap down now to just 3 tenths of a second. As they come through the elite. Here we go. Not going to be white flag, certainly not this time. I'm just looking at the clock. It's going to be close. I think they may... I'm just trying to work this one out now, DJ. I think next time around should be white flag. So about 2 laps to go for these two. Clearly, there's around about 3 opportunities to overtake per lap into turn 1. And we're seeing now into Shell Oils and then the run the way down to Hislops, providing probably some of the biggest overtaking areas on track. Also, potentially it's a Lodge, so 3 to 4 chances. So, where they are on track right now, Strom has got 6 opportunities to find a way past Cope. Well, you can see Cope have already taken the defensive line early on, and Strom just moving around. That gap down to 2 tenths now.
Yeah, it's certainly within attacking range, and Kim Anderstrom can really smell it here. He is putting all of the pressure onto the 164 of Thomas Cope as they make their way up the hill, headed towards Druids. We see a little bit of a surprise maneuver. No, the 192 not opting for anything here. He is going to have to do this late, and I believe you were right. They will get the white flag this time by.
Down into Lodge corner. You can already start to see defensive shapes and manoeuvres being played out by Thomas Cope. The white flag flies. 1 lap left to go here at Oulton Park in race 2 of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship. And Strom is on full attack mode. Just gets a bit squirrely on the exit out of Old Hall there. This could give Cope the space that he needs to hold on to victory here in the UK. And you can see just how hard Strom is pushing. Running wide, they're trying to carry as much momentum as possible through the corner. but he's going to have his work cut out. He's brought the gap back down to 4 attempts, closing right up onto the back of Cope, lunging in to the corners right now with Strom to try and distract as best as he possibly can the Brit, who's desperate to win his home track. And whoa, no, Strom's gone! He's bounced across the curbs, and that's going to hand surely the victory to Cope.
And he's got to watch his sixes. That is Christensen that is able to get up by him for P2. Here comes Gotterstad now as well. Strom has just got to hope that he can hold on here for these final couple of corners with Gotterstad having a whole head of momentum.
Oh, as he runs a bit wide and a bit deep once again into his slops. It's all falling apart right now for Strom. But Cope, he's only got 2 corners left to go, and it looks like he's going to hold on. He's got a massive advantage now, 8 seconds to second place, and he rounds Lodge Corner and takes the lead. He's going to come across the line to take victory for the 3rd time this season in the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship. Christensen, wow, an amazing 2nd place for him, and this is a fight to a line. Who's going to get it? Strom just pipping Gotterstad there, his teammate, by 7/100ths of a second at the line. Wadsworth, he's going to pick up 6th, and that win in AM with a scene 2nd in AM, Minot coming across the line in 8th, and last place on the podium in the AM category. Well, I knew it was good at the fireworks were going to happen on the last lap, but I just didn't think in that way. I didn't see Strom losing it. I mean, he just showed just how much he was pushing and how badly he wanted that win.
Indeed, he was absolutely going for broke. Strom putting everything he had into it. And it just goes to show you the margins here, not only in this Porsche Cup Series, but around this very difficult Oulton Park circuit, that just that hair offline can cost you a chance for not only the win, but almost cost you a chance at the podium.
Wow. Wow, what amazing race, and I don't think any of us quite saw that one coming. As we just see Cope there just parading around for his victory lap. Let's try and get a bit of a chat with him as he's on his in lap. Thomas Cope, congratulations on the victory.
Thank you.
And well, they say men can't multitask. You're taking an interview and doing donuts at the same time right now. Well, I mean, we knew it would be feisty on the last lap. You know, Strom is no mug whatsoever. However, I mean, he was pushing you really, really hard in those last few laps. We could see the gap coming tumbling down. Were you starting to feel a bit, pressurized, or were you quietly confident in your own abilities the whole race?
It was a mix. I did actually make a big mistake early on, and I hit one of the tyre barriers in the first chicane. So I did actually end up picking up a little bit of front right damage, but nothing that hindered me too much. I was just protecting my tyres, knowing that he was going to catch. Strom's an amazing driver, and he's got some real pace behind him. So I knew with no doubt he was going to catch up. So
I mean, you're making a bit of a habit of winning in race 2. I mean, you did last time out at Zandvoort as well. What are you thinking for race 2 next week?
I mean, I want to try and get a race 1 win. I felt like I had the pace to do well in race 1 today, and then obviously something's happened. I've not really reviewed the incident, so I'm not going to say too much who's at fault, but I'll say I protected my P8 after I went down to P10, and just thought I'll get the reverse grid and do my best in race 2, and obviously it's paid out for me.
We were talking about that during myself and DJ during race 1. Obviously, for yourself, was it more, you were right all over the back of your teammates? Obviously, Daniel, was it more the case of you were just looking to maintain that 8th place so you get the pole position, or were you not fussed either way between the 7th and 8th because you knew at least you'd be on the front row for race 2?
Yeah, I mean, Dan's done an amazing job all season round. He deserved a P2 in class, which is obviously what he got. I didn't have the pace quite to catch up to P6. So even if I got ahead of Dan, he would have just got mugged maybe, or something could have happened between him and Messina and those guys behind. So I acted as rear guard, played a bit of team strategy, and got the front row lockout, obviously in race 2, helping his points out in the series as well.
Definitely. And before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Yeah, the whole team, all the sponsors, everyone who's helped me out with setups and just doing everything they can. Dan obviously playing the big T strat. And obviously race 2 didn't go his way at the start, but he did the best in race 1 and he deserves the P2 and the reverse grid. And just everyone around me.
Definitely. That's Thomas Cope, your victor here in race 2 at Oulton Park. Well, lined up next for yourself, DJ. I think you should rightly so have a chat with our winner of AM class in race 2. We're now joined by Peter Wadsworth.
Good evening, gentlemen. Race 1 as well, thank you very much. Winner in race 1.
Yeah, yes, sorry, apologies. That as well. Yeah, double victor, apologies.
I'll forgive you.
Well, there you go, Peter. Yeah, talk me through. I mean, some stout defense across the board there. You had a lot of pressure from a lot of different guys, but this was just your day.
Yeah, I mean, it was to a point. Yeah, I think there was no way I was going to let him by easy because it's such a hard track to overtake on. You know, you can really get your elbows out and defend properly. And you know, when there's a 3rd place overall in the offing, and I don't have a championship to think about, and they do, I'm going to race as hard as I can. And I think I kept it fair. I think it was pretty clean. You know, I didn't give him a lot of room, but you know, that's racing, isn't it? But yeah, it was great. The first race was a bit lonely, but yeah, the second one, yeah, just trying to like keep your head in it and realize that all you have to do is hit your markers and you know, go reasonably quickly and just not make any mistakes and you'll be okay. Yeah, it's difficult. It's a sweaty one, that one for sure.
Yeah, it most certainly is. I mean, how do you like this kind of circuit? How do you prepare for this kind of circuit? Because we were talking beforehand that this one's a little bit unique. There's not a lot of tracks like this out there on the sim.
No, I think. Well, I mean, I've got a bit of a problem with circuits like this, in the sense that there's circuits that are brilliant to drive on, and there's circuits that are brilliant to race on, and they're not necessarily the same thing, right? Like Oulton Park is so much fun to drive around, and in terms of doing the prep, it's just getting loads of tips off Scott Mokes, so thank you to him for pointing me in the right direction on some things, and just getting the laps in and realizing that it's really a qualifying battle, not a race. And yeah, I would prefer really for iRacing, because I know we follow the officials, to go on some tracks that are maybe a little bit wider, a little bit better suited to these cars. Something like Matigi or something like that, which is not necessarily the best track in the world to drive, but from a racing point of view, it's great. But yeah, it's a load of fun to drive, just not a great racing track. Let's put it that way.
Indeed. Well, I mean, talk to me a little bit about you, and you already did, the mentality coming in with the Pro Am series. Are you giving any of those pro guys any slack at all, or is it they're just another car and we're going to race them?
Well, I think it depends really. Like, you know, as I said, like I think when there's an overall, I mean, look, the 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever, there's not a great deal of difference between those as long as you get the class win in AM, right? But if there's an overall podium or win or something on the cards, then yeah, they're just another car and you've got to defend as hard as you can. I think if it was for a position that was a bit further back and I had the class win, I probably would have let them go a little bit more easily, because the important thing is getting that class win as far as I'm concerned in the AMs. But yeah, no, I mean, I think, yeah, just another car. So long, when there's an actual result on the table, I couldn't care less whether they've got a red or a green stripe on them. I'm racing them.
Well, fantastic. It presents some great action for us up here. And Peter, 2 wins on the day. Anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the biggest thanks has to go to Scott Mokes, who is driver in the pro category. We've kind of started chatting and stuff on Discord, and he's just been giving me some really great pointers. He's probably given me, like, I don't know, like half a second probably, and has been helping me and my brother Sai, who also races in the 911s and is also the owner of Tech Native, who's on the side of my car. He's been helping us with some setup stuff. So yeah, biggest thanks goes to Scott for sure. And then the usual stuff. Thanks to you guys for commentating, and thanks to ARL for organising it all. So it's good championship.
Well, we are more than happy to put it on, and thank you, and congratulations once again. That was Pete Wadsworth, your double AM victor for the day.
There we go. I think finally, just a spot he's in there as well for yourself, DJ. It'd be rude not for you to speak to your fellow countryman. Now joined by Daniel Palmer-Lee.
How's it going, fellas?
Well, it's good. Dan, a pretty tough race out there, obviously on a very difficult circuit. How do you like hopping across the pond to a place like this?
This is one of my better tracks, oddly enough. Of course, you know, the level of talent in this league is quite good, so it's always nice to come out and run with them and take what I can learn running with them and apply it to the handful of public official races that I'll end up running. So I will definitely take where I finished today. Got to run with some really good guys out there, and it was just a lot of fun. Felt fast. Felt like I finished higher, but hey, you know, like I said, we got some real great drivers out here.
Well, I want to pose the same question to you that I did to the victor here today, Pete Wadsworth. Does your approach change at all when you're fighting around with some of the guys that have that pro level stripe? Obviously, Mantis coming up behind you there at the end. Does that change your mentality at all when you're running, or is it just another car out on the track?
And I try not to think about it, but at the same time, I don't want to give up that position. So, you know, if they are catching me, or if I happen to catch one of them, like maybe after they make a mistake and I'm able to get to their bumper, I'll try to learn as much as I can. But like I said, even if they come up behind me, I'm definitely not going to give up that position easy. I'm going to go as hard as I can and try to put myself in a bad situation. Definitely if they get the position in one place where we can only get one car through, like some of those chicanes, like I'm not going to try to force the issue there, but then even if they get by, follow and see what I can learn and try to keep up with them as best I can.
Well, do you feel like you've been able to learn a little bit from this series, or what are your big takeaways thus far, I guess I should ask?
Definitely still working on the car control. It seems like early on, and I hadn't raced this car hardly any before starting this season of Porsche Cup with Apex. And just playing around with trying to figure out the braking and how to get that little bit of extra grip, try to get that little bit better turn in, try to get the track out just right to really lay the power down. And again, even just following around behind some of these guys, I've definitely figured some stuff out with the car. And when I go racing, if we get a split that's got a lot of people around my level, it's definitely much more competitive, and I've had some really good runs this past season when I've jumped into the official races, and have definitely outrun a lot of drivers that are at or just above my rating.
Well, fantastic. That's what we love to hear, my friend. Anybody you want to thank, though, for your run here today?
We'll definitely give a shout out to the family for all the support, and the wife for letting me come out and do all this stuff. Although she is out of town, so that gave me a little bit of extra time to prep. So that was good, and looking forward to next week.
We're looking forward to seeing you. That was Dan Palmer-Lee, your AM driver who was able to finish 4th here in the second race.
Wow, DJ, another cracking race here once more from Oulton Park in this series. Wow, where do we begin to unpick that one?
I don't even know. I mean, just more of the fantastic insanity that we are used to seeing in this series. Great battles up and down the field, and a lot of sort of strategic heads-up driving, trying to make those passes where you don't traditionally see them. It's just a fantastic thing to behold.
For me, it was really interesting, when you're speaking to the AM drivers, saying how they just, they're not too fussed either way by, whether they're fighting with the pro guys in and around them or whether they just see it as another car.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think, comes back a little bit to the racer mentality that we were talking about, specifically when we were looking at that battle with Cope in 8th place earlier on in the race, that you get out on track and everything is removed. That's one of the great things about racing, that when you get into the car, it's just another driver around you, and so can certainly change things up the way it goes.
Just like to take you through your classified results for race 2. So Thomas Cope with the victory here. making his third race win of the season. Now, Christensen in second. Strom in the end had to settle for third place. Only just, though, under a tenth of a second setting between himself and his teammate Godestad for last place on the podium right at the line. Parker, he wasn't far behind in fifth place, and then it was 4 AMs, and obviously Wadsworth with his second win of the day here at Oulton Park in the penultimate round of the championship. Lasine second, 7th overall, with Minot picking that last AM place on the podium in 8th. Pabali, as we've just spoken to him, he was in 9th and 4th in class with Yamantas. Unfortunately, that early incident putting pay to his race after what looked like a potential podium finish. He finished in 10th. You'll see at 11th, Merchant, after a strong race one, obviously fell down through the order and ended up in 12th. Scott Mokes, unfortunately, he retired the car. We lost him back on lap 9, some 6 laps ago. Oh, well, if this hasn't been enough for you, coming up on the channel at 11:45 p.m. GMT, we have got the TireRack.com Road to Indy E-Series when they head to the Worldwide Technology Raceway. That's tonight. Make sure you tune in for that one. And then coming up on the channel on a Friday night, it is the Radical Racing Challenge as they head, as they always seem to, for the last week of the season, to the Nordschleife. Then on Saturday at 8:45 GMT, we have got the Finding Speed at GT Free League from Imola. And also, an hour later at 9:45, we have got Loreno 3.5. They head to Interlagos. And then on Sunday, it's the usual, double header it is only this weekend. We've got SRF Weekend Warriors. I'll be back in the commentary for that one as we head to the Charlotte Roval for that one. And then that's at 7:45 GMT. And then only a couple of hours later at 9:15, we have got IGP Fun F3 as they head to the Hungaroring for the last race of their season. Well, it's been another dramatic race here again in the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship. What can we say? Just we're headed across now. The short trip up north of the border to Scotland from myself, Tim Cox, DJ Clark, and Alex Simpson. We'll see you in a week's time as the championship heads and as the season finale at Knockhill.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers, including Peter Berryman, John Robertson, Brandon Trano, and IndyCar World Champion Alex Palou. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.